has these like start taking notes with Gemini. I'm such a coward when it comes to AI. My wife, I swear, she emailed. I woke up and I checked my inbox and I saw all these emails for like, Robin, here's how to leverage the podcast and IFS and get more clients. And I was like, there's no way she didn't use AI to like generate all of this. So I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, yeah, no, I did. Why not? She's like, why not use AI? And I'm like, I am such a Luddite. I don't know.
Yes.
I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant to do it, but I know that there's a lot of efficiency and good. Anytime someone's like, summarize this email, like, no, I want to read my colleague's email. Don't summarize it. I don't know how you feel about
I feel exactly the same way. I call myself a recovering Luddite. I think I've come a long way for me with a lot of help. But yes, I see those same prompts. I've never once bit at the suggestion that they take over and summarize. I'm starting to get a sense of when people communicate using that. I'm starting to be able to sense that, oh, this is like Chat GPT fixed or whatever. But
right. I feel a sense of job security in that I don't really know how it will look for AI to enter the realm that clinicians, especially clinicians that are going into like how would AI even factor into like a psychedelic guided mushroom journey? I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
we'd have to ask the machine elves, I think, if you know what I mean.
That's right. The Terrence McKenna's guidance. So I'm just being tangential because of the Google Meet prompt, but I actually want to start, Chris. Thank you for coming on the show. I will have introed you in the pre-roll. I love your office. I'm noticing you've got a candle, which is always nice. I've been incorporating more. I have like a box of tea candles over here, and this is new for me. I never. Like I had clients sometimes that have a candle, and I made a comment like, "Oh, that's really nice. I feel like I should have a client." And I mean, not a client, a candle. In my office space. But
right.
I wonder, what is it about? What is it about having a candle? In the space. When did you start doing that? What's
Great. No one's ever asked me that, but I have a immediate, simple answer. I started doing it a few years ago when all of this kind of changed for me, and I came outside the box in ways that maybe we'll get into here.
Yeah.
But really, in essence, having the candle here as well as plants in dirt, it's representing the element, having the presence of the elements in here. So I'm fortunate to have two big bright windows, so I get light, then I got fire, I got earth, not a lot of wind, and ether, the mysteriously sort of eked out of the consciousness fifth element is always present everywhere. So that's really it, representing the elements.
Yeah. So I definitely want to ask you about. You mentioned a shift and a change in your trained clinical background as a licensed social worker, clinical social worker. But I actually kind of want to start with, looking back on your autobiography, are there any kind of clues that were like little hints along the way that you knew that you would end up not where you are now, but just in like the healthcare field or helping people with mental health? Or when did you start to get a sense that was your track?
Sure. Well, probably from way back. I don't know when starting. My folks, my mom in particular, other people, teachers who would know me well, would say things to me like, "Oh, like you have like the heart of a teacher," or things like that. Some people, more than one person, would say, "Oh, you'd be a great social worker," things like that. And I was involved early on in some things, volunteer, Boy Scouts, that had that, I dipped toes in that world of human service. But it probably really wasn't until college, first few years, where I took my first psychology course, and that really just opened my eyes. Took my first philosophy course, that opened it up further. I wound up studying English lit, and because I like to write, and that part of my mind could go there, whereas I could barely add and still can't. So I knew like math and hard sciences was not for me. So
Yeah. Uh-huh.
so it was kind of always there, in the ether of my experience. But once I went into this field, I started in 98, basically grad school. And in clinical social, where you start pretty much right away in grad school seeing people. So you're right out in the field 2-3 days a week, starting to see clients and classes 2 days a week, full-time track. That's how mine went.
Did you go into grad school straight from undergrad?
No. I did music for 6 years in between.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I had to get my yayas out. So I played in a rock band with old buddies from home for the 6 years roughly in between undergrad and grad school.
So, but wait, before, if I may be so bold as to interrupt you, because that's right. I meant to jot that down as something to ask you about when we met on Saturday.
Right.
Just because there's a lot of similarities in your life and mine.
Right.
So before we get to going that track of grad school and starting out seeing clients as a social worker, so
yeah.
When did you get your yayas out and do music, and you were a touring musician? When did you start your relationship with music as a writer or live performer?
Early on as a drummer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Banging on Tupperware and tinfoil plates in my pajamas as a kid. That's where it started. Some point got a drum set. The rest is history. But all through college, myself and my old buddies were sort of constantly talking about this plan to, how about when we all graduate, or most of us, some dropped out, we'll reconvene and give it a go. And that just got more enticing and more real as we all got closer to the finish line. So we reconvened in 92 in Boston and gave it a go. And it didn't last long, a handful of years, but we got an indie record deal first and put out an EP, and then got picked up by a major label. I don't know if your audience, how much music business aware they are, but
I've had many guests who are audio engineers and musicians alike. So
okay,
yeah, right. Which major label?
We were on Columbia for about a second, ready, signed, and then not. Yeah.
Oh no.
So, we did one album. We did one album on Columbia. Did a couple of opening slots on big tours. One or two bands that were huge at the time. This was the '90s signing wave where any band who could carry a tune was getting signed. And, as we later discovered, like so many bands did, most of us were tax write-offs for the major labels. They never really expected much. So therefore they didn't give you a lot of funding. So it was kind of a kiss of death in a way, if you went that direction, unless you got really lucky, the stars aligned, and you sold a boatload of records.
Right.
Which we did not. We did a lot of touring through the indie days and a good bit for that year of the major label experience. But then got dropped. And did I leave even before that? No, I think I decided right after that was it for me. I'm moving on, but not because of that. I mean, that helped it along. But this is where I'd pick up with where you think, I think where I'm going, is that I had already started to feel a real unrest. It was kind of like my first dark night, was those last 2 years of living the music life. And I could not shake this feeling that this is not what I'm here to do. Like, no regrets then or now. I will always treasure that time, warts and all, because it wasn't all pretty. But something deep inside was calling me to something else. I didn't know exactly what it was, but with the help of my second therapist at that time, who's still with me, he's in his 80s, retired. He's still my mentor. He helped to give me the confidence, really, with one particular statement one day early on, where I mustered up the courage to say, I think maybe I might kind of want to do something like you do. And without skipping a beat, he said, and I think you'd be great at it. And it was like, I still get chills right now when I say that, because I know that if I hadn't heard that, I don't know if I'd be sitting here with you today.
Yeah.
I so badly needed that co-signature, So he's someone that was known to my family in a way that we don't have to get into now. But
Right.
so I had already had him in esteem. He was a former Franciscan priest. So he came out of that world and kind of left it largely because he wanted to embrace more of the shamanic and the mystical.
Mm.
So my journey with him has been largely helping to set the stage for where in these last few years I found myself, but only after many years of being totally conventional talk therapy, as I like to humorously say, stuck in psychodynamic prison, which I said once to Dick Schwartz and he cracked up. I was basically thanking him for giving me an inroad out of psychodynamic prison. I think he's heard those things many times, so
Of
it wasn't
course.
a surprise.
Yeah.
But
Well, let me pause you for a second because the musician in me
yeah,
has to ask you, and on behalf of the audience who may be curious, what was the name of the group?
Oh yeah, we were called Expanding Man.
Expanding Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which we all have different recollections of how we came to that name. I always remembered that we basically took that from the Steely Dan lyric. But most of the other guys,
which lyric?
I forget which song. This is the age of the expanding man is the line from one of the fairly well known tracks, I think off Asia. The rest of the guys deny it. Some of them vehemently, but they can't remember who came up with it or where it's from. So we'll never know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we did one EP for indie in Boston and one major label debut for Columbia. And
And the other question I wanted to ask was, when you were touring, which major acts were you touring with?
Oh yeah, well, the big sort of claim to fame was we were personally invited to open a whole West Coast leg of the 1996 Stone Temple Pilots Tiny Music in the Vatican gift shop.
Listeners, you're not seeing my reaction right now. That's awesome.
It was great. Awesome. It was great. You know what? It was double-edged for me. So I'll just sort of bring a little bit of therapy into it here.
Yeah.
Because I was an insecure mess at that time. I was already feeling the pull, like this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I was battling with that with very little skill about how to navigate that. And that affected my performance. So I really never really felt good enough, as a musician, as a drummer. And so that tour was, for all the glory and the once in a lifetime kind of thing of it, it was personally, I was white knuckling it through that, you know? So I have mixed feelings when I look back, but again, no regrets. I wish I felt more secure so I could be more present for himself,
Totally.
But what can you do? But I don't really play drums anymore. I sold my kit recently, but if I ever feel the bug, I'll go for it again. But the few times in the last years, I've just fell into a spontaneous opportunity to sit down on the drums or sit in for a song with friends. I swear the feeling I have now is like it leaves me with, why couldn't I have felt and played this way then?
Yes, exactly. I so connect with what you're saying, Chris, because I too know what it's like to be on stage and have a preoccupation. Like, I know the difference. I had both experiences of being selfless, right? Like what the Buddhists call no self, right? With IFS clinicians call it just the flow, right? And just the trust and the energy of the crowd. There's like a super organism that happens in the venue 100%. versus the neurotic, like, oh, I fucked that up. Oh, the chemistry, like, just like there's so many different flavors of not that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
It's just like you can't think a feeling, as the saying goes.
Yeah.
I think it was Steve Gadd famously said, or Vinny Colaiuta, as a drummer, especially, once you start thinking, you're sunk.
Yeah.
And all I ever did was think. So, my time in my pocket I listened back once in a while. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah. That's true.
I could hear my lack of presence in the performances,
Right. And that's true of athletics as well. It's March Madness season. If someone's on the free throw line and they're thinking, it's not helpful. It's not
anything that involves creativity and flow. Even IFS, of course.
Yeah.
It's like that's why the cornerstone is we got to be in self, or have as much self-critical mass as possible. And then, as we all notice, when we do that, we're in the zone, and the time flies by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's right. Well, I appreciate you indulging my musically curious parts, but
Yeah.
I interrupted you, Chris. So you were talking about grad school, and you get to see clients pretty early in the program. It sounded like.
Yeah, it's like trial by fire. You cut your teeth, and I'm grateful for it all. I mean, there was experiences I had early on in New York City in my second year internship, which became my first job in the field,
Mm.
which I loved that place. I have such great memories of it for a variety of reasons. But one of the like get in there and swim at the sharks experiences that's worth mentioning is I got asked to take over a long-term therapy group of men. So this was a place that was funded to work with people with addictions, but it was also mental health. It was co-occurring. It was both.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a group of guys, all well older than me. I mean, I was 27 at the time, 28, maybe. Yeah. They were all much older and all survivors of childhood sexual abuse that developed addictions later. They were all clean. So this is a group of guys with a good amount of clean time, all working the program, but still a lot of woundedness. And here I come because their last long-term therapist left the clinic. I got asked, since they just hired me to take it over, I really didn't have a choice, which is probably a good thing, because if I did, I probably would have said no out of fear.
Mm.
And boy, did they eat me for lunch for the first, I don't know, 6 months or something.
Not a friendly bunch.
Well, I mean, yes and no, but I mean, how I look back on it now is that they were understandably distrusting.
Yeah.
And who is this young whippersnapper, inexperienced, too well dressed, looking like he's trying too hard because he was guy. What does he have to offer for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was, boy, did I need a lot of supervision and therapy just to get through that. But one thing I could say about it was, not only did it put hair on my chest in the right kind of way, but it was the greatest lesson in Zen mind, beginner's mind.
Right? And what makes you say that?
Because the whole thing taught me that the best defense is no defense. Like when I would be, basically under attack, under judgment from them. I couldn't say anything right to some of them at times. I had to remember I am a beginner, and that's okay, because we're all beginners and always will be. And if the more you can embody that, then you're giving nothing to push back on, and then eventually the attacks will subside. Right? I mean, I'm painting kind of a broad brush here, but that was my big takeaway, right? And I took that with me. I mean, I survived it, so I gave myself a pat on the back for that. And by the end of my experience, I don't remember how long that went on, but probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years. By the end, I mean, I wouldn't say that I really completely got my feet in the ground and earned the trust and respect of all of them, but more of them than not came around to accept me and really allow me to. They've started to be able to listen to things I might ask or say with different ears. And that was with a lot of help and support, a lot of work on my side, but also being constantly encouraged to just embrace the Zen mind, beginner's mind. To not go in there trying to prove anything. Be the student, right? You got to trust that you do belong there, but be the student. Let them teach you, right? It's like the Tao. The best teacher is the one who lets the students think that they've taught themselves or led themselves, right? That was kind of my takeaway. On that. I don't. Where were we going with that?
No. That's a gift of an experience, and so that was early in your learning. And how long? And also quite a thing to be saying to take over the group. You know?
Oh yeah, it was terrifying. I would be on the verge of panic attacks for the first, I don't know how long. I'd have to literally breathe my way step into the room.
Yeah.
And
that's also just for people who might be listening and can resonate with other work experiences. I mean, the thing that comes to my mind is in the same context of like being a trainee and a student. And you want to talk about being a beginner's mind. It's like, I don't need to like reference Zen for that. I'm like, I've never done therapy. I've never done this before. And the clinic doorbell, Robin, your client's here. Right. Like just just the and it didn't help that Sherry, the clinic admin person, was like, Robin, she's this beautiful like 75-year-old Jewish lady. She's like got the thick Coca-Cola glass. She's like, Robin, I did the intake for this client. And she's worked there for 40 years. I've never met a more difficult man. Whatever. And I'm like, oh God, this is my first client.
Good luck. Yeah.
Oh my God. But like when the nervous system is doing that, it's like being,
Oh yeah.
just activated. It's a time to listen, which is real hard to do when you're out of your body or dysregulated. But obviously your nervous system is trying to like tell you really important information.
Completely. Or like to put it in IFS terms, when you're just becoming blended and flooded with insecure, shame, imposter stuff.
Oh yeah.
And or being overridden by your thinking, analyzing parts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which psychodynamic training unfortunately sort of contributes to that, since it's so heady and intellectual, right? Gets your thinking parts right at the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah. And there's, some place for that, but then you're not really in your center, you're not listening with your presence and your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you were fortunate enough to have showed up with both presences to see what wasn't working, and then slowly but surely gradually shift and see, oh, okay, this is how safety is communicated, and this is how trust is earned, and this is how progress can flow.
Yeah, definitely. I would credit the fact that my program was really relational. It was psychodynamic and kind of antiquated for that in that way. This was late 90s. So pre sort of trauma informed modern neuroscience, right? But it was relational. It was interpersonal, relational focus. And I was fortunate that my supervisors all were in that camp. So it wasn't just like old school analytic training and way of being with the other, but it was contemporary relational. And I still take that with me, of course, because the essence of it all is the relationship, is the attachment, the security, the safety, the trust.
Yeah.
All the essentials, no matter what kind of therapy you're doing, if you're not paying any attention to that, or you undervalue that, probably not going to go well.
Yeah. Yeah. So after that experience, Chris, you help me and listeners know how you got to where you are now, because you encountered a pretty palpable shift in the way you practice, or your sort of calling, so to speak. So how long were you practicing?
Inside the box.
Conventional, exactly. Inside the box, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I would say I was inside the box till around 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So basically from finishing grad school to starting working full-time in the field, both in New York, then when I moved to Nashville, where I still live, shortly after 9/11, clinic jobs, Vanderbilt mental health clinic jobs, struck out on my own in 2006, part-time. Then I was full-time in independent practice 2007, and have been ever since. So from that time to 2018, pretty much in the box, conventional. I was always mind, body, spirit, holistically oriented. And really going all the way back to late high school, I started to get introduced to the spiritual, the psychospiritual, the mystical. So that was always in me. But for all the typical reasons, mostly fear of being judged and seen as a lunatic and going way too out of bounds. As a licensed therapist, of course, I kind of kept that all behind me in the bag, as Robert Bly used to say, right? You keep all the stuff that everyone tells you is not wanted in the bag until your bag gets so big, you fall apart and it all comes spilling out.
I don't know who Robert Bly is.
Okay. Men's Movement, 80s, Iron John. He was mostly known for that book.
Oh, okay.
So that's the whole rabbit hole you could go down. But that was just one of his metaphors. Right. Basically, to put it in IFS frame, all our exiles, he viewed metaphorically as we put it all in the giant Santa sack that we carry, and we lead with the sort of the Jungian persona, right? Until the bag gets so heavy and we get so depressed or feel so lost at being so inauthentic and not seen, because we're not being who we are, because
Mhm.
we've exiled all our magic, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
So, all right. So to try to pick back up, so where everything changed for me was in the lead up to 2018. For probably nearly a damn decade before that, I was struggling with overworking, achievement bypassing,
Mhm.
and doing it in all the wrong ways, right? Following the sort of unconscious puritanical ethic of just see everyone with a pulse and show up earlier, stay later, see as many people as you can, not build, no, not a lot of self-care, not building in breaks. It was like a insidious, long, dark night of the soul in progress that I didn't recognize in hindsight for what it was until it all came just completely crashing down on me somewhere in 2018. And I basically touched upon the edge of madness. I would really say it's very hard to describe how, so I hope you don't have to ask me that. Just take me at my word that I was touching on madness. I felt like I was truly losing my mind after ignoring, not really seeing all the signs: chronic headaches, high blood pressure, adrenal fatigue, frustration, all sorts of signs were letting me know, trying to let me know, mind, body, spirit wise, something ain't right. You're not living your truth, right? But I was so bogged down in the workaday world of it and adopting children, raising a family, really, really kind of stuck in. I just have to keep doing this, head down another day.
Right.
So, the blessing of it all was that I guess it had to go the way it did. So, somewhere in 2018, in the way that I subjectively experienced beginning to really lose it, touching upon the edge of madness, that's what helped me to realize, oh, there's something more here that I'm really neglecting. So, long story short, I just basically chose to do with that what I always knew to do on paper and what I had attempted to help other people do through the years that were going through, some combination of a mental health and psychospiritual process, or even a pure spiritual emergency. I had already begun to be more and more interested in that theme. I joined an organization that is now defunct that was all specifically about that. So, Spiritual Emergence Network, Assist, a lot of these organizations out there, which are great. They were really trying to educate and raise awareness to the reality of phenomenon like spiritual emergencies, awakening, kundalini awakenings, all this kind of stuff, which in our field is generally pathologized and
Yeah.
misunderstood.
Yeah.
So I was experiencing some of that in this crisis state. So I did what I knew to do, which was just completely surrender to it. So I just started a grand surrender experiment, sitting, meditating, simply asking for clarity. I tried to keep it really simple. I need clarity. I need surrendering to the divine as a whole and asking to be shown or help to understand what this was and what it's not. Like, help me to process of elimination, get down to what it is so I know what further I must do or what I need to learn from this.
Mm.
Long story short, again, I hope that continued on and on and on and still does to this day. And it was a rebirth, a slow rebirth. But what's, I think, important to know about it was that not long after I really settled into that surrender experiment, I started to get some clarity, some downloads that were speaking directly to it, giving me breadcrumbs. And then I started to notice body movement that looked something like this. And I started to notice that this was the infinity symbol formation, was the mainstay of it, right? So I'd be sitting, meditating, asking for clarity, just trying to go within, be open to receive. And this all started happening. And I knew that this was not me. I figured first, oh, it's just energetic. Again, having some of this knowledge, I said, okay, it's energetic. But then the messages and downloads started to come in. And then the shapes of the movements began to change. And on it goes. And basically, I began to realize in different ways that I had higher sources coming in to work with me. And there were a couple of pivotal experiences, one in particular, which I only realized about 2 years ago who it was that initiated this. I had one absolute like unitive conscious experience sitting in my old office in a meditation. It was partially out of body. It was just like this most amazing shot of pure love, bliss, a temporary dissolving of ego, identity, all that kind of stuff. I've just never felt such love and bliss and peace. So I later learned that that was Mother Mary, who's more recently been working with me ever since, along with others, but she's more recently really come forward as like my co-partner in my transpersonal work. Maybe we'll get more into that. But to go back to that time, I thought it was Saint Germain, who at that time I learned was coming on as kind of a gateway guide, as they say in some circles, and it still is in that function with me. I thought it was him bringing in that violet flame, because at that point I started to feel gravitate towards and started to work in violet flame work and doing decrees, which I still do. So this is like 6-7 years in the making.
Let me pause you. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, so I later learned that it was Mother Mary who came in that time I was just describing to just envelop me in bliss and peace and love without identifying herself.
Right.
Or maybe I didn't have the capacity to get that.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned two things: that was her, not Saint Germain. And it was also because at that time, because I was still very unsteady and ungrounded, things that were not of the highest and holiest light were starting to come in and try to muddy the waters, and for a little bit did. And I probably had some unattached burden energy start to be part of the picture. So in that big, blissful, peaceful, unitive consciousness experience that lasted all of 10 minutes that day, Mother Mary was coming in to both lift me up further out of the pit of that dark night, and also to get gone all those things that did not belong in my field. I didn't realize this till about 2 years ago. Yeah. And I think closed up the porosity. And then I think I started to get more nudges and guidance as to how to better protect myself through invoking white light, golden light, all that kind of stuff, you know. And the rest is history. So what were you going to ask me?
My question was about the violet flame when you're talking about Saint Germain, and just I wonder, for people who, myself included, are not familiar with Saint Germain and the violet flame. Say more about that. Yeah, so you were talking about it as a distinction between, you had maybe thinking parts of you or intuiting parts of you that were saying, is that this? Yeah. When it retrospectively wasn't. But I say more just so that we can understand.
So basically, I became aware that Saint Germain, Melchizedek, which is a very mysterious figure, only 2 biblical references to who this Melchizedek kind of ancient priest figure is, and I think Christ. At that time, believe it or not, their energies were beginning to work with me. That's what all this was about, the way it started. That was interpreted to me by somebody I had a reading with who I had great respect for. And when that was interpreted, my heart opened, as if to say, correct. Like I got a visceral somatic validation. It wasn't just information that it could have been like, maybe, probably not.
Right.
Like something just opened up to say, in other words, it wasn't an accident that I was led to her and to do basically a channeled reading. So that gave me more confidence, gave me the ability to really have a deeper sense of trusting my bodily response, right? Or my larger self response, to information that is true. So Saint Germain is considered an ascended master, basically, from the ascended master tradition, the 7 rays. There's a bunch of them. There's probably infinite ascended masters. We could also say that Mother Mary and Christ are ascended masters. Like that can be an umbrella term, but in mystical circles, esoteric, associated mostly with theosophy, Rosicrucianism, and other older Eastern esoteric traditions like that. Blavatsky, they talked about this certain set of like the 7 rays, the 7 ascended masters. So Maitreya, Christ is considered one, Saint Germain, El Moria, Paul the Venetian, Lord Lanto, Serapis Bey. I think that might be all of them. I might be forgetting one. But so that's kind of that in brief. That could be another rabbit hole. But yeah,
for sure. But the violet flame, and I appreciate you
violet
sharing.
Flame, it's just basically a powerful healing energy, right? Violet light, high ultraviolet light, spectrum, healing, clearing, purification. Some call it the violet transmuting flame. So it's something you can invoke and call in and visualize, and it can be just as powerful a force, if you believe it, in purifying, clearing, transmuting negative karma, et cetera, right? So, and it doesn't require any alliance with theosophy or any particular tradition. You can just utilize it in your own way. So I felt led to that after that reading, started exploring it, and then I've been doing a set of decrees that are extensions of the sort of violet flame principle, and it's made a world of difference in every way that would probably be a whole nother podcast to describe how. But I don't know, you want to lead this into like how I've brought this into my work life?
Well, definitely there's a lot of doors, right?
Yeah.
And you're exactly right in terms of like I've got to have you back on because and I'm gonna listen to this episode again and take notes and be like, all right, here are the doors that we'll cover next time. But because I could easily, the thing when as soon as you said violet flame, I associated to an image on your website's blog post when you said, I think it's something about Mount Shasta, and there's an image of a violet, but that's maybe something completely different. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's it. So Saint Germain, in short, he's considered to be an immortal figure that had many lifetimes on this plane. So this is the lore about him. Who the hell ultimately knows? I don't know. But he is probably best known as having appeared on Mount Shasta to someone named Guy Ballard in the 30s. And they began a relationship, which became a series of dictations called the I Am dictations, the I Am something, which you can find online for free. They're all
this is the 1930s, you're saying?
Yeah, 1930s, right. And these were all dictations from Saint Germain, and this became a whole movement, the I Am movement. Guy Ballard and his wife in the 30s, esoteric movement, as most of them, laden with controversy. Many people claimed fraud and all this stuff. Okay, maybe so. They're human. But I feel that the essential message of the teachings is basically universal. It's universal spiritual, reflective of universal spiritual truth, and resonates high on the level of consciousness. We could go into that too if you want to, but I just resonated with it. So I ran with that in my time of darkness. And that's one of the, so the Ascended Master connection is one of those that I now have. Angelic, Archangelic connection, Ascended Master Kingdom, if you will, and the Supreme Beings, Holy Ones, Illumined One, Christed Ones, which I just simply call upon and invoke in my work now for those that are open to it only. And it's kind of a theurgical process. So there's a sort of a jargon term that most people don't know. It's pretty obscure. Theurgy was traced back to Neoplatonism, Iamblichus. It sort of translates as divine action, invoking the gods, if you will. And theurgy at that time was largely about trying to descend more of the soul that's left behind when we incarnate. That's not really what I'm going for. I don't think whatever that is not really my path, but what I'm doing now is a type of modified modern theurgy, if it had to have a name, because all I am really doing since I came online with all this from 2019 on, with this connection to higher sources, is realizing that I am a kind of a channel. Although most people, when they hear that, think, oh, you go into a trance and you're speaking for the source. That's not how it is for me. I'm more of like a modified modern theurgical channel where I just go inside, I make a verbal invocation, I call upon those by name, and I can use this built-in kind of yes-no guidance that I have, this holy discernment gift that was landed on me sometime in 2019, I can use that to tell me yes, no, true, false, or ask any question, kind of like muscle testing.
Mhm.
Who is this with me? Is it Mary? Is it Christ? Is it, and stuff? In my head, I'll go yes to who it is. It's that simple and that
Mhm.
reliable,
and
fortunately.
I'm guessing that it's that simple. And a lot of people might think like, so it's such a common thing where people, it can't be that simple. It can't be that simple, but it's like, yes, it is. However,
Yeah.
my guess is because of how strong intellect and cognition and doubting and just overthinking, overanalyzing, let's just call it the analytical mind.
Right.
How strong that is that,
Oh, yeah.
like, if anyone could potentially do this, they don't they don't they don't have the same experience as you because, and again, this is a guess, because the rest of the ego, the psyche, is not even letting them, number one, be open to that. Number two, if they are open to that, another system comes in and it's like, well, that's not real. Let's just dispense with that and we just move on with regular life or whatever. So so my guess is that you have the clarity of that because none of that distortion or interference is happening, or if it is, it's the volume's way down or something.
You're
does
right.
that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, and you're exactly right. It's totally subjective. Even in terms of like psychic ability, clairaudience, clairvoyance. I have like a claircognizance, a clear knowing, or a clear sentience, clear sensing. And this holy discernment gift is kind of one version of that, the quick and dirty version, I say. My intuitive sense in general has deepened over these years as I've maintained this practice and this commitment to working with the higher sources. But yes, you're exactly right. And no, it's not simple, but yet it is. I mean, this is the land of paradox, right? It's simple, but not easy.
Yeah.
You really do have to be in flow. You have to be this. It's all much like the process we did.
Mm-hmm.
It's for your side, the recipient. You can receive what you have the capacity to receive and perceive, usually less, never more, from the higher sources, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I still have parts that want to doubt and question, especially with respect to some of what I receive in my own personal sits and through this like telepathic message transcription process that I've been experimenting with for about 8 months now. With certain like predictions, prophecies that are made. I got parts of me that want to constantly chirp at me with doubt, and it can't be, how could this be? Why you? All this kind of stuff. And that's fine. I just try to do what I know to do. I hear that. I understand. Yes, there's a lot of mystery here. Who knows? Time will tell. That usually relaxes it,
Yeah. Yeah. Also, just to say, I knew I would share this at some point during our conversation, but because you just referenced our work together. So,
yeah.
So Chris and I just met. It's right now at the date of this recording is what? It's the Wednesday, March 19th.
19th.
Yeah. And just last Saturday, this past Saturday, Chris and I met and did a session. And what's so funny, you don't know this yet, but what's so funny is I had told Chris that he, first of all, I would never have said yes to having this experience unless I was open to it.
Yeah.
And there's pre-briefing and debriefing, and before we actually started to do it, I had kind of let you know what, I'm open because I've already done this work with these I call them like a panel of atheists that are very skeptical, and they take the form of like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Neil deGrasse Tyson, the contemporary like scientific and philosophical heavy hitters, intellectual powerhouses. And it took some trust building with them. Some of them prior, they're like, don't ever talk about this on the podcast. I had to earn their trust.
Yes.
And I did. And I was telling you, like, I think like we're all systems go, because like I already got the trust with that. But then what ended up happening was I had listened to I had an experience, and I'll try to make this a short story, but I was invited back to a temple in my mind where Jesus was welcoming me.
Yeah.
So what happened was, privately and in my own head, there was this unfinished business of like my 8-year-old when I rejected God and I grew up Episcopalian, and I was like, no, this is all fake. This is all bullshit. Started at the age of 8. And so but the 8-year-old had already been found again, or found, so he's hugging Jesus.
Yeah.
But my 9-year-old and 10-year-old and 11-year-old, my other parts, all these other parts had not, they were showing up during our session on Saturday, because like, Robin said he's all good here, but like, fuck, like they are not them. They're not they're not this panel, but they're these other parts of me.
Yeah.
And so what's funny is, after our session,
I
go to my spirit journal, which is a Google Doc, right? I go and I type in, and the entry right below it was, I'll tell you what this is out of response to, because it'll make sense. But the entry below it was, it looks like I'm going to have to do some work with these parts of me that are not willing to surrender their life to Jesus. So it was like, oh yeah, you're who I'm talking about. You're who showed up with Chris. And that came up from doing this surrender novena, this insight meditation timer of like, just like surrender your life to Jesus, and again and again. And I had noticed when doing that, like 9 days in a row, these same parts showed up, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm noticing the blocking of stuff that's there. It's available to me, but it's also not available to me because of these parts. And then so it was so
totally
synchronicity of that happening.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. And maybe just to clarify a little bit for anyone that would be listening to this. What we're talking about is this multidimensional divine light transmission, or MDLT for short, process that is really an outgrowth of all that I've been describing here, that was started for me really 2018-19 to the present of coming online with all this. Never did I, even when it was really in full swing, I never thought, oh, I'll do something with this and bring it into my clinical space. Never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
It wasn't until about 3 years ago, maybe, that I started to feel these inexplicable pushes and nudges to start bringing in what you're doing here in your meditations or spirit communions. Start to bring it to people that would be open to this.
Yeah.
So no sooner than I got that nudge, the very next day, a young gal who I'd just started working with, it was all about this kind of stuff. I was like, you want to try something different? She's like, yes.
Funny how that works.
Yes. So we wound up doing a handful of those. And then I figured, I don't know what to call it. And then in my next meditation at the end, I got a download of what to call it. First, it came backwards, or I understood it backwards. Mm-hmm. And I was able to put it together, and the rest is history. So so when you're talking about Christ, or Yeshua, basically, just for anyone listening, the idea is that for any of a session where I do that with people, there's one usually or two hosts or guides that are coming in to do the work. For whatever reason, in your case, last week, it was Christ. Mm-hmm. And you had that experience that you started to describe. But it can be any number of what I call the sort of the supreme beings or Christed ones. It can be archangelics, usually not like the big four, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael. I don't think I've ever had them come in. Uriel is the closest, but it's really like the second or third hierarchy of kind of lesser known archangels that are more available to humanity for the asking, as how I look at it. They come in a lot of time, they'll lead. Can be ascended masters, ascended master divine counterparts, and sometimes others.
Can I ask? When you say ascended master divine counterpart, there may be listeners in the audience who are like, oh, Robin doesn't know what this is, but I know what this is. But I don't know what it is, and maybe other people don't.
Yeah.
So
no, it's sort of like a twin flame concept.
Okay.
Which kind of in the lexicon now, that's.
I know it's been muddied by the.
Exactly. Yes. People who are abusing that concept.
Yeah.
So it's not that. This is more ancient esoteric idea of really just gender polarity. I think it comes out of that kind of universal law concept, law of gender, law of polarity, as above, so below. So it's the idea that in the ascended master spectrum, Saint Germain, Christ, etc., they all have the ones who are masculine have a feminine divine counterpart.
Got it.
So like with Christ in that tradition, again, as he's called Sananda in that tradition, he's the Lord of the sixth ray, and his divine counterpart is called Lady Nada or Lady Master Nada. And that's really an alias in a way for Mary Magdalene.
Oh,
right. So this is an extension of this old kind of taboo idea, at least according to mainstream Judeo-Christianity, that Magdalene was really Christ's partner, wife. They had children, controversial, but I always get true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that. I think it was either today or yesterday that I was literally pondering, did Jesus have a wife? Did he ever have kids? And it's just funny that was so proximal to that, like that thought floating through my stream of consciousness, and now here you are talking about it.
That's right.
Really funny. Yeah. Anyway, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no. So that's the idea of ascended masters and ascended master divine counterparts. Right? Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. So Saint Germain's is Portia, the goddess of justice in this tradition, and she comes through a lot to do this work with me and for others too.
Like I said, Chris, there's so many possibilities for refining one's knowledge, like because I'm very green on all this stuff, and yet I have the openness, like where I wouldn't have earlier, where I'd be like, oh, just to completely dismiss all of it. So I have the openness to learn, but there's so much, and it's I find it relevant because of the good that it can bring in people's lives, my own and whoever I touch, basically, whoever I interact with,
absolutely. I see it the same way.
Yeah.
I've had it communicated to me more and more clearly over this last year with this telepathic experiment that I'm in the swing of. It's been communicated to me more than once that, of course, like there are really no accidents. This whole dark night being brought to the edge of madness to wake me the fuck up, to get on with my life's true purpose, my soul's true purpose, that yes, this is all by design. What I'm doing here now is what I was always meant to come in to do, because my soul, if you can go to reincarnation, prior embodiments, has a long history of being, as one of them put it, a truth seeker, a truth teller, and basically like an instrument of divine will. Essentially, that was the idea, which is part of my surrender every day, right? Pledging my allegiance every day to God, to the divine, and to be an instrument of divine will, and guide me in every thought, word, and deed every day with that, by your grace. So truly, that's my daily re-upping of my contract.
Yeah. And that's so perfect, because I was going to ask you about if you're willing to share your practice, or your, when you got that message. And it also is no surprise to me that it's like on the heels of a terribly, frightful experience. You call it descent into madness, but I've had colleagues share similar things about, like, it's like hell. It's like your consciousness is blown open and you are shown hell. And but like that's what got you to the dance of what you're doing now, which is all the good, on the other side of it. But but like your daily practice, when you say that's my contract and my commitment, like what does that look like for you in the morning or the afternoon or the evening, or in whatever way feels appropriate? Yeah,
totally. Yeah, it's essentially two things. One is the daily re-upping, commitment, surrender. And there's just a series of things that I say. I'll start with the Lord's Prayer and the St. Patrick's Prayer, usually. And then there's a series of things that I will say and ask for, about 5 different things. It's sort of like a state dependent. So since I'm not in that state right now, if you ask me what they are, I would stumble through it.
Sure.
But basically it's just asking, pledging, committing, use me as an instrument, guide my every thought, word, and deed, that kind of thing. And then I do a couple things that I got a little bit from sort of Tibetan traditions of may the heart of Christ be here, there, and everywhere known. I borrow a little bit of standard Catholic, like Hail Mary, full of grace, Mother of God, born without sin, have mercy on me, a sinner. Lord Yeshua Christ, Prince of Peace, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Those kind of thing. I'm kind of spiritually promiscuous and I always have been that way.
Yes.
If it resonates with me, I'm kind of a Vedantist, quantum monotheist. I think it is all is one. These are just emanations of the divine. As long as it resonates with me and I feel it is of the highest and holiest, or a tradition or a practice or a method that's reflective of that, I'll steal it and put it in a gumbo and make it my own.
Integrated.
Yeah, definitely. But it's all sort of Christos, Sophia, it's more Christian mysticism, I guess, if I had to say, right? Oriented. But, like Mother Mary downloaded one day with the client who we were going to do MDLT. And I told her Mother Mary's the host. And she goes, but I'm not Catholic. Boom. Right away, I get, my dear, there are no religions in heaven, only love.
Yeah.
And we were both like, wow. And she was like, okay, let's go. But to try to get back to this question of the daily practice, it doesn't take very long, maybe 20 minutes. And I tried to just describe that. But then the real meat and potatoes is whenever I can make the time, an hour and a half usually, then I do a whole series of decrees, protocols that are sort of set up, prayers of protection, more pledging. I do a series of 7 decrees, which really just means affirmative prayers, right? Thank you for, instead of please give me or please make this happen. Thank you for, and really one of them's for really my family and myself. One of them's for my clients, past, present, and future. The rest are for the world, humanity, and different, ongoing terrible situations in the world, essentially. And one of them is to give thanks that this process, whatever this is, and whatever the divine would have me do and be for the remainder of this, thank you for continuing this with clarity and robustness and protection and divine grace, that type of thing. So I do all that, and then I put it away, and then I sit, and someone every single time is going to come in and work with me. 9 out of 10 times I can get who it is, what divine emanation, ascended master, angel, supreme being, whatever. It's usually 30 to 40% of their energy. Just like when we did it, it was in the 40s of Yeshua energy, because I think I have to be able to hold the presence and the vibration and the energy. So it's dependent on my ability to do that, which is part of why I'm in a constant refinement process. My sits are largely about that, refining my instrument to be an instrument, a vessel, a conduit for this. But it's also that any more than that would probably be too overwhelming for any human. Right? When, the stories about angels appearing, it pretty much freaks people out.
That's my understanding, is that anytime an angel appears, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. Right. When people hear that claim or that statement, it's like, well, what exactly do you mean by appears? Like, if I look out on my street right now, it's like, it's garbage day. I see the garbage cans on the street. Now, if I looked out on my street and I saw an angel, I would be terrified. I imagine. However, I see angels in my mind when I'm doing healing work. When I'm in an IFS session per se, and I've found I don't know if you're familiar with the Spawn comic book series, but Spawn's one of the villains in Spawn is the Violator, and I've had that when in IFS language, that unattached burden show up and take the form of this Violator.
Oh, interesting.
Which is a pretty nasty looking thing. When we do the protocol and get it out, like, it's with the assistance of guides. And
nice.
And the guides show up like angels. And,
right.
And in that plane, not with my eyes open, looking out at like the front porch rocking chair, it's not terrifying. I'm like, because I'm in a trance state, and I'm like, well, I'm like, all of me is like, oh, that makes sense. It actually makes sense that there would be its counterpart being like, it didn't even feel like my guide. It was like, this feels like its guide helping to usher it back to the healing realms.
Interesting.
Right. But if there was an angel outside my window with my eyes open, I'd be like, what the fuck?
Well, most people, it's just what is it called? The ontological shock.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. My own therapist had that experience like 30 years ago. Middle of the night, got up to get hot water or something, walked into his kitchen. There was an angel sitting at his table. And he said, I don't know who you are, but you need to leave. And it left.
Yeah.
And he regrets it ever since.
Oh, yeah. And that's of course. And this is for people who are listening. My mentors have said, the good guys respect that. Like if they're sitting at your kitchen table and you say you need to leave, the good guys will be like, I'm out. Like
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes, because only false light beings, we could say, have an interest in overriding our free will and stealing our sovereignty and dominating us in some way, right? Mm-hmm. True highest and holiest, just to put it that way, never.
Yeah.
Never, right? That's why I also learned through doing the multidimensional divine light, and even from bringing these guides into IFS, transpersonal IFS, like I'm doing. That's why I say what a person receives and perceives is relative to their capacity to. So that could mean a lot of things: their willingness, how much faith versus fear, and probably many other factors, right? But just to put it umbrella term into our capacity to perceive and receive, we're never going to get more from these because they're not interested in spooking us, overwhelming us, frightening us, or bringing more energy than our systems can handle. Right?
And not interested in showing up for a parlor trick or someone who's like, I don't believe it, like prove that you're real.
That's exactly right. So
they're not going to waste their time.
That is it. That's what separates kind of what I think I'm doing. That's why it's not mediumship.
Yeah.
It's not evidential mediumship. It's not psychic reading stuff. I mean, all that's got its place. I'm not casting, dispersions on that, but that tends to be the realm of the lower astral, the false light, the discarnate souls. Not entirely, but a lot of that. I've experienced that. I experienced a lot of that on a trip to India back in 2006. That could be a whole nother podcast, so we won't go there. But
my future self is writing it down in my document right now for our next conversation.
Cool, but there is a world of difference, and it's probably more complex than we can even conceive of. But the little I know is that there are hallmarks to distinguish the true light, highest and holiest, from anything else, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, since you just mentioned it, that sort of unattached burden, polarity energy with the, what did you call it, from Swarm and his guide taking him out. Did you do that work with Bob Falconer or on your own? Or
what's interesting, I really appreciate the question. Bob Falconer did that work to help me identify the first one. So he did session 1, session 2, session 3, and on session 3, actually there were some distractors, projectionists. I won't get into it. It might be confusing for people to listen to, but what I'm talking about, that it was a I don't want to call it an infestation, but it was multifaceted. It's kind of like a video game, like level 5, level 6, like the final boss. It took a while to get to this final boss.
Yeah.
But they all showed up with this violator form. And what's interesting about the last one, the one that I referenced in our talk today, was it felt like I was doing it all by myself. I was with an IFS clinician. She was holding space, but she wasn't doing any direction. It was really just like she was wise enough to know Robin's got this, and then more true or accurate, Robin's got to have this. Robin has this. And so, but Bob helped me with my first several UB experiences and using the UB, leveraging the UB to find other parts of me. right?
Got it.
That we're trapped in its energy. Yeah.
Love it. Maybe if it's okay, I'll use that as a springboard to talk about how in my work with this, I approach foreign energies or unattached
Please do.
virtues.
Yes.
Yeah. So and it's 1:11 on the clock as I'm about to say that. I'll just mention that, right? 11:11, 1:11, repeating numbers. Thank you. So yeah, you and I talked about last week. We both love Bob's work. Mad respect. We devoured that book in a day.
Yes.
I want to read it again. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just such a treasure trove of historical information from cross-cultural traditions, all about the unseen stuff, right? So it's like, wow, it's my wheelhouse. But kind of going back to when I said earlier, back in 2019, when I had that one experience that I didn't know till recently, was Mother Mary coming in to just blow this big blissful light and love hole out of my darkness and clear out the stuff that started to come in that didn't belong, that I wasn't really aware of at the time. So fast forward a couple of years ago, when I started to get the nudge to bring this stuff into your work, this is the next stage of what you're supposed to be doing. I started to, I did a couple of sessions of sort of the standard Falconer IFS approach to identifying and ushering on foreign energies. But I don't even remember how I got here. But now I just invite in Mother Mary.
Yeah.
And when I ask every time who would be coming in to do this, if we've identified that there is unwanted energies in somebody's system, it's always Mother Mary. And that's led me to realize that according to some, fringy, esoteric, ancient traditions that would view her more as an ascended master, an interdimensional avatar, that she is in her own way like the ultimate exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
Except that her way is more akin to like the shamanic compassionate depossession. And that's my experience of her every time. And there's been handfuls of them, including one and only one person that had 4 of these attachments. And what I got in my discernment process for the one and only time was that one of them was a legit demonic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could always have that wrong, right? So I don't totally know. That's just what I got. It was Mother Mary. And like every time she comes in to do that, if somebody's open to it, totally turning over the session to her. And it's just compassionate, merciful, no fanfare, no sort of Catholic, I cast you out.
Yeah.
None. It's the complete opposite of that, of course.
Yeah.
And it's always successful from what we can tell. There's always follow-up. And it's a thing of wonder, man. Half of me, I just can't believe that I get to facilitate that.
Yeah.
And it's simple in that all I do is ask.
Yeah.
But I had to go through some hell to get there. And I had to put in the time and show commitment and dedication and surrender and allegiance to, the divine in all these ways we've described. So that is my way. Whenever it becomes apparent that there is that in somebody's field and we discuss it and they're open to going that route, we just give it to Mary.
That's the thing. And that was the thing that in our session, that was Jesus's message, was you in so many. I'm paraphrasing Jesus because it's like you said, telepathic. It's not necessary. It's so much cleaner than the tongues that we have to use to tell it to each other. But it was essentially, you pour out and I'll pour in. When you're overwhelmed and you're outgunned, I'm paraphrasing, this is how I'll help you. And I'll help you at the somatic level. I'll help you recognize in your body that it's time to let go of the horse's reins.
That's exactly right.
And sit back and let me do it. And that's right. And it's like, why? Yeah. Something much more powerful, much wiser.
Yes.
Is gonna it's gonna just do it more effectively, more mercifully, cleanly.
Right.
I don't.
TCB,
these words don't really
take care of business.
Yeah. So it makes sense. I'm actually I'm curious. I know there are questions that I ought to have jotted down, but I trust that you and I will have another conversation sometime in the near future. And I'm also mindful of the time, and I'm curious, Chris, if you want to, if there's anything, we'll make sure that we have time before we close up our conversation to point listeners and viewers at where to learn more about you. But in this time, does it feel okay if we pivot into a demo for?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Great.
Okay, so this is just so for anybody watching or listening, this is going to be basically a demo of my transpersonal approach to IFS, which maybe can sound fancy. It's really not. It really just means we're opening up to the higher sources to come in, lend energy, hold space, and oftentimes it's nothing more than that. So you or anyone that would be doing this with me might only have as much of an experience of just sensing, feeling, or noticing that there's some presence that's not me and them with them. And it's a leap of faith that it is who I can get is present, or some of their energy. So it would be Mary today, because Mary's with us for this today. But in my transpersonal IFS work, it can often be much more than that too. So I've been doing that approach to it for 4 years, maybe 5 at the most. And it is at times absolutely profound, where it really does overlap with what is more the territory of MDLT, where we just give over completely to the sources. But to put it in kind of IFS terms, and for people that are familiar with the basic steps and what we're getting at and what it's all about, there are many, many, many times where, especially when we get to the point of doing some unburdening for any part that's open and ready for that, what I've learned to do is just, in addition to offering the menu of the elements to give it up to, we say, or Mary, or Portia, or who's ever here. And very, very often, the person will get that the part's saying they choose the higher source. And then it's like we're just giving it over, and they can do it in all sorts of metaphorically but real visual ways. Like one humorous example is, I have a client that's had multiple unburdenings from Archangel Metatron. And every time we get to that point, she laughs. And when we talk about it at the end, she calls it Metatron's vacuum. It's like he comes in with a literal vacuum and vacuums out the pain.
That's what happened. That's what, by the way, what those 2 guides did. They had vacuums and they were sucking out. In
your experience with me, you mean?
No, with my experience with Bob.
Oh,
yeah. It's just, just because I had to say it, because like when you would say with this client's experience, I was like, well, that's exactly. Now Bob's, there is a analytical part that jumps in and is like, well, Bob may have used the word suck, and vacuums suck. So, maybe there was some seeding there, but that was my experience. That they came in and they were sucking it out with a vacuum. Yeah.
Got it.
Anyway.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you want to shift into demo?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it.
And of course, I'd ask you to start. Any awareness of a part you want to meet with today, or feeling, or?
I do have a part that's like, Robin, you prematurely went into demo mode. I just have one more burning question. We can save all the other ones, but just let me ask this question. So
let's do it.
So that part just goes, is Kuan Yin is like the Eastern Mother Mary.
Yeah.
And right, because they're the divine being of mercy and compassion.
That's right.
And so a part of me is like, there's this philosophical part that's like, is it possible that those are the same being and they just show up to the people in those cultures and are given the names by the people in the culture, but it's actually the same source being? And no, you and I can't know that, but I'm asking you because you were saying, I do have discernment about the energies. And I'm like, maybe Chris can tell me.
Well, here's what I would say.
Yeah.
The answer is yes and no.
Yeah.
Of course. It's the quantum. It's the mystical. It's yes and no.
Yeah.
But to be less cheeky about it, how I was saying earlier with Ascended Masters, like Magdalene in the Ascended Master tradition is called Lady Master Nada or Lady Nada, and many, many other names, like in the Magdalene manuscript, which is one of the sort of the lost gospel apocryphals. I read a book from somebody who channels Magdalene and references as a deep student of the Magdalene manuscript, has a relationship with her. Is it like 1,000 names, kind of like in Hinduism, the 1,000 names of the Divine Mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
So really, they're all emanations of the one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isis goes by 100 different other identities, so to speak. But so
no,
yes
as
and no.
as soon as you said yes and no, the part was like, okay, cool, I'll sit down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have like all these cards I collect of all. I try to find the ones of the different sources that come through. So here's Kuan Yin, or one sort of a illustration of her, and what it says on the back is the Bodhisattva Kuan Shi Yin, meaning she who hears the laments of the world, is the Chinese goddess of mercy and compassion. It is thought that she was an aspirant who attained nirvana only to refuse the gates of paradise in order to ease suffering on earth. The model of Chinese beauty, goddess of fertility, protector of travelers, Kuan Yin is a beautiful expression of the Divine Mother. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mother Mary is Divine Mother? Yes and no. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Mother of God? Yes and no. You know. Yeah. So that was satisfactory to that part?
Yeah, that part's in the gallery. That part's
Okay.
in the observation deck. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So beyond that, any awareness of something you wanna meet with today?
Actually, yeah, the thing that came in was just the follow-up work with those parts of me that were like, even though I journaled down, oh, all these other parts of Robin from ages 9 to 38, like that's speculative, right? Like it's probably realistically not all those parts of me that are just all suddenly like, yeah, okay, we can hug Jesus now. Like, let's go to the temple. Like, probably not the case. And
Right.
so my system's like, well, maybe it'd be good to just follow up with them. You're with you're with the same being and presence when that last happened. And that's what perhaps part of me is suggesting.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So I know we have Mother Mary on deck or with us. So I'm going to do my invocation real quick while you're just going inside in the way that you normally do. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with great reverence, all respect, love, and infinite gratitude, I'm hereby once again surrendering to, invoking, inviting in the entirety of the divine realm. Highest and holiest emissaries of the divine supreme beings, holy ones, illumined immortal ones, Christed ones, great saints, sages, masters, mystics, light beings, rishis, prophets, angels, ministering angels, archangels, ascended masters, galactic star family, soul family guides, and members, brotherhoods of light, councils of light, supreme beings, and any crossed over, healed and well, departed ancestors, both sides, for Robin, personal guides, guardian angels for Robin, one and all. We honor you, respect you, value you, and invite you to lend energy, hold space, and work with us for us to us today in this brief demo that is for Robin's highest and best good, healing power and potential, now and forevermore, according to the will of God, his soul and higher self. Amen, amen, amen. And it is Mother Mary. Any other joiners? No. Okay. So Mother Mary energy is with us. When it feels right, you just acknowledge her, welcome her in to do her thing, intervene in any way that would be for the best. And whenever it feels right to you, Robin, let me know what you notice, or how does it feel inside so far?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to first just lovingly acknowledge that the part of me that was suggesting that original agenda has been overruled, which I'm not surprised once I sort of felt it as a part.
Okay.
Yeah, that's been overruled, and what shows up is the asking for help for my daughter. Yeah, and just for the the
Yeah.
suffering that happens in
Right.
her and in loved ones that are trying to help.
Got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just acknowledge that you hear that loud and clear. And is that your inclination to go with that?
Yes.
Okay. So let that one know you got it. And I would guess that you feel open to that
Yeah.
part.
There's a
Compassion.
yeah, there is one part of me that is
Yeah.
sort of like this like ever vigilant, ethical, like make sure you're being respectful of your family, you know,
Oh, right.
right? So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
So maybe you can enlist that part to give you a little nudge if it thinks you're going to reveal something that it would rather you not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a little job to do if he can do it with just a little bit of space so you can really lead it.
Yeah, that feels good. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. And of course, you don't have to verbalize
Mm-hmm.
anything, as you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So great. So do you have any awareness of Mary presence or energy thus far?
Only a little.
Okay.
That was the awareness of her presence is what sort of invited. It didn't seem like it came from any one part clearly about just offering up the suffering that happens
Yeah.
again in my family.
Yeah.
And so with knowing that she's present, it's like, no, this is
Right.
there's not a silver medal or a bronze. It's like this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very clear.
Great. So I trust she knows this already, but it couldn't hurt if you just let her know that you are wide open to any wisdom, insight, direction, anything that she might have available for you or for any part of your system that most needs it. And
So
from yeah,
I can feel the presence of a part that's um uh it's not exactly skeptical, it's more fearful.
oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so it's not skeptical, but it's a familiar part of me that shows up when I listen to guided meditations from Brian Weiss
Right.
for because
Yeah.
this is in response to the fear showed up in response to the openness to past life
Right.
stuff. So however that's showing up in my family, my nuclear family,
Right.
like the message was past life stuff, and then there's a understandable part of me that's like, that's scary.
Right. Yeah. So let that part know first and foremost that you get it. You get
Mm-hmm.
that. Validate the fear.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it younger part or closer to your age, or do you know?
It's 12
Okay.
ish, 12-ish. Yeah. So
Okay.
younger. Yeah.
All right. Hello, 12-year-old. And if you feel it would be important to ask further, is he in a protective role?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. Yeah. How do you feel toward him?
Grateful to be aware of him.
Yeah.
Grateful that he's here.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let him know that. Let him feel that from you. If he's open to you moving closer to him, you can do that. and see if there's more that he wants you to know about his fear or anything else.
Yeah. I don't, it's not clear if he's aware of my intention to do past life regression. Sort of,
Yeah,
there's an intention there, and
yeah,
let me just ask him.
yeah.
Yes. So he is, so he is, he is aware,
Yeah,
but he's sort of new to me. I haven't had this, I haven't had this,
yeah,
connection with him kind of one-on-one in this way.
right.
I've been familiar with his energy and his fear, but I haven't known that it was him.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
So you might ask him if he knows who you are.
Yeah, I get a little bit of confusion. It may be coming from other parts. So Chris,
Yeah,
the experience that I get is
yeah,
um a supposition or a presupposition that um
yeah.
he should know who I am. I think it's coming from
Oh,
another part. So it's another part. Yeah.
yeah. That sounds like another part, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
let that one know. Okay, I hear that. You get it.
Mm-hmm.
And but he may not know, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just clarify self of today, your age.
No, he didn't know who I was.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And is he shocked or happy to hear it, or what can you tell?
Yeah. There's it's mixed.
Next, yeah,
There's relief. There's really
right.
his fear softens. His fear's like, oh,
Okay,
his fear's like,
okay,
oh, that's okay. That's okay then.
good.
I don't have to be I don't have to be afraid of.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's mixed because he's also, it's almost like
Hmm.
you know, the feeling of like, oh, we missed like old friends, like, or like, oh, we've missed out on so much time together. He sort of has that
Oh
sense also.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. Absolutely. Like, why couldn't this have happened sooner?
Yes, exactly.
Of course. Right. So just validate that. Yeah. Sometimes in situations like this, I like to have the self tell the part, if I knew how to find you sooner like this, I would
Yeah.
have. Sorry about that. Yeah.
I'm appreciating that offering, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. And it's great that his fear is lessened, knowing who you are, feeling your presence. You might also let him know, Robin, that just in case he was thinking that we were doing past life regression right here and now, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah, he knows that.
Oh, okay, good.
His fear was, well, his fear came up because that was the answer. Yeah, that was the sort of the message about, I don't know how to articulate it. That was the
Yeah.
it was sort of an affirmation in terms of like the intention to heal burdens in my family.
Right.
The intention is, adult me is like, I have plans to go meet with a past life regression hypnotherapist sometime in 2025. Right?
Right.
And so there was an affirmation of the suffering that's happening in the nuclear family as being like, yes, like it's the suffering is not just time bound, you know, in the
Yeah.
aughts and 90s, and it's before.
Got it. Okay, great. So he's clear on that that's not today.
Yeah, he's clear on that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. How close would you say, or far away do you feel from him?
He's like yeah, he's near. He's like a couple feet away.
Okay, great. Great. And you still feel really open to him,
Mm-hmm.
curious and all the good stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. And any awareness of any part that might be protecting him that might not want you to go too much further or have any concerns?
There are parts that are like, they're also relieved that we've made contact with him.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, they're older parts, and they're like, we know what he went through and what he may or may not be carrying. So it's like really good to have him back home.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And they trust what you're doing here with
Yeah. Oh
him?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
they're sort of like, they're like cheerleaders, if you could say that.
oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. Welcome cheerleading, championing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So totally up to you, Robin. What do you feel could or should happen next? One option, of course, just for this sort of demo purpose, is you could maybe ask the 12-year-old if he's aware of and how does he feel about having the presence of Mother Mary here.
Mm-hmm. He's not aware.
Okay. So just, yeah, clarify that for him. That part of her loving, pure love energy is with us and available.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Uh-huh.
yeah. So he's has some feelings about that.
Okay.
He has some 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's what's the best way to describe it? Yeah.
Mhm.
He's just like, yeah, well, that's not, I don't, he's not as open as I am.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just validate that.
Mm-hmm.
Totally okay. Right. And he really doesn't have to be any part of it.
Yeah.
Or he can just observe from the distance he has. Whatever's best.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to work with him more right here? Or would you rather just have him kind of hang out, observe, and
I'm asking him. Yeah.
yeah, good. Right.
Yeah. Wait. The first thing that came through was like, he's, you know, I feel very endearing and loving towards him, and
Nice.
just not just who he is, but the
Mm,
kind of like all 12-year-olds, not that they're all the same, but that like that sort
right.
of global 12-year-old energy. There's a lot of
Yeah.
love there. And so his attitude about like being asked, like, does he want more space with me, or is he open to kind of giving space and watching? He had like a little bit of a, he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like,
Uh-huh.
so he's actually he's not as vulnerable as like a 6-year-old, say. So he's willing to just kind of
Right.
hang back and
Okay.
and watch with some attitude.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So maybe just let him know that now that you've made this connection with him, you intend to keep it going.
Yeah, I did. I already did. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Great. So thinking about kind of what you first brought up about your daughter, the suffering, the family stuff, if you want, you could just ask Mary to come in close and speak to that or show you something or guide you in any way? Would you want to go that direction right here?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm getting a yes on that.
I'm asking some like thinking and planning parts. They're
Yeah.
they're not objecting or opposing to what we're doing, but they're unintentionally
Mm.
muddying the they're I have
Yeah.
they have my focus, and they're
Okay.
I'm just asking them
Yeah.
that I'll follow up with what they're doing is just for
Yeah.
listeners' sake and your sake, is they're sort of suggesting other ways of helping the identified
Yeah.
challenge, and
Got it.
I'm letting them, because they came across new information like yesterday.
Okay.
And I'm letting them know like
Right.
we're not abandoning that plan. We can still do that. This is different,
Right. Right.
we one doesn't negate the other, and I got it. And I'm sort of asking them,
Beautiful.
is that okay?
Great.
Maintain some space.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't even know they were interfering, so
Oh yeah.
they're
Let them
hanging out.
know. Let them know. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Okay. Thank them for softening back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. So I guess if you want, you could kind of center up again and just try to open up to Mary's presence or energy or input and just let it come.
Yeah. I have a I have a podcaster part that's like, this is dead air.
Right.
So it makes sense that part would show up. But I do want to speak to what I was noticing prior,
Sure.
which was the presence of things that appeared, maybe it's more respectful to say beings, not things.
Yeah.
Beings that appeared, that seemed to be agitated by her presence. And yeah, there was like
Yeah.
like almost like, here's the analogy, Chris, is like,
Yeah.
let's just say 12-year-olds are deciding to like play kickball or dodgeball or like something, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like you're on my team, like trying to make me like not be on Mary's team. It's like, no, it's like a loyalty thing
Oh yeah.
from this being. The being's like, no, you're not on her team, you're on my team.
Oh, got it. By
Yeah.
being, do you mean something that's not organic to you? Or no?
It's not clear. I said thing at first, but it doesn't, like, a thing wouldn't have that kind of intention of like, don't go to her.
Yeah.
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 So it feels like a being. I'm not clear if it's a part.
Yeah. Do you feel fearful of it at all or
No,
annoyed?
no, no,
Okay.
not at all. Not at all.
Open to it. You might ask it, what's its big concern? Why doesn't it want you to uh, be in the Mary presence more or whatever?
It says because she won't help. She's gonna let you down. It's like,
Oh,
yeah, it's sort
yeah,
of like it's
yeah.
a false road kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seemed like a belief it picked up or a religious or cultural burden, or what's your sense?
I'm just kind of, yeah, I don't, I'm just kind of curious about,
Yeah,
yeah, without
right.
any like guessing, just kind of curious
Yeah.
about its,
Hmm.
even who it is,
Right. Well,
as,
you could go for the standard, are you a part of me?
hmm.
Mm.
I have heady adult parts that are pointing to it and saying it's not a part of you. Like, it's like,
Yeah,
but I'm asking them to relax and just
good.
let me be with this source one that said, you
Yeah,
know, don't go to her team.
perfect.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like wants to stay hidden, even though it like kind of outed itself by
Hmm.
declaring its position.
Okay.
It doesn't want the attention.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
But it did or didn't clarify you're a part of me?
It didn't clarify. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
yep.
Okay. Doesn't want attention. That's okay. Just let it know that's fine.
Hmm.
We're not trying to put it under the microscope. Um, yeah. For what it's worth, I'm getting that it is a part. It's not a foreign energy of any kind.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I know we only have like kind of 10 minutes.
Yeah, my timekeeper appreciates you since I'm
Yeah.
eyes closed this whole time. Yeah.
Right. Right. My timekeeper was looking for that too. So where to go from here?
I'm actually, even though it said it doesn't want attention,
Yeah.
I want to let it know that's fine. Are you willing to open space and allow any final
Mm,
communication or offerings from Mother Mary here
great.
and just seeing how it feels about that?
Beautiful.
Oh, that was a that was a clear answer. It was like no.
Uh-huh.
It was like no. But which that makes me laugh because it's like, whoa, if I want you to not join her team, why would I be in favor of you? Like,
Right.
anyway, yeah,
Sure.
there was no hesitation. It was like no.
Is a hell no. Okay.
It wasn't a hell no. It was just a very clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a clear no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Might you ask, what would it most be afraid would happen if you did?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it said before. So it's like you will be let down. So
Let
again,
down.
it's like, yeah, like it's like a protector of
Yeah.
disappointment. It's like if you open yourself to anything positive from her, it
Yeah.
won't materialize, and you'll just be not betrayed, but like just disappointed. Like you it's not, it's like, don't put your faith in her.
Okay. Her
Yeah.
specifically or any kind of
No, her, just her. It's not picking beef with anyone except who's here. And so it's like, because she's here, it's like,
yeah.
yeah, she'll let you down. So it's just, that's the thing. The fear, the concern is you'll
Yeah.
feel let down.
Okay.
So,
So it's definitely protective.
yep. Yep.
Okay. Good. So that seems to validate that it's not a foreign
Hmm.
critter.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Okay. You know what? I'm curious to ask if this feels right to you.
Hmm.
Ask that one if is it he? Is it a masculine?
Yes.
Okay. Ask him if he's aware that you had that experience with me last week where Jesus, Yeshua energy came in and the kind of experience you had with him.
Well, Chris's first response was, "You're not really," he was like, "You're not really getting this 'don't put attention on me' thing, are you?"
Oh, okay.
But that said, that was his first like response.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still feeling okay about asking him that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
My apologies to
No,
him.
no, no, no. It's all good. It's all good. I'm
Okay.
asking him. I am curious if he is aware. No.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. And I guess it kind of makes some sense, right? Because if he had been online for that,
Oh,
he might have a different take today.
I get the same sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So maybe we leave that there. Thank him for what he's offered.
I would just want to ask him one other thing here.
Okay.
Okay. I asked him if he knew the 12-year-old, and he said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I follow up with the 12-year-old, I
Yeah.
would like to follow up with him.
Totally. Yeah.
He's okay with that. No hesitation there.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And I have a like a my like a part that has a lot of higher perspective, like more on the mountaintop and can see everything around, is
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is another one of those parts that whenever interacting with spiritual figures
Yeah.
is like
Right.
not there yet, shall we say. So
That's right.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I,
And
and
again, all makes sense given
yeah.
our work on Saturday.
And given your history,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So I'll also point out, just for anyone that is following this in the future, that to me, this is also an example of what I meant by when the higher sources come through, as long as we say yes to that, they're never going to give more or do more than you or the system can perceive or are willing or ready to receive.
That's right.
In other words, you notice Mary's not, she's just here. She's not trying to convince this one that she's good or anything like that, right?
Mm-mm.
So I'm just going to thank Mary as usual for her time, energy, effort, tutelage, guidance, mercy, strength, love, truth, persistence, patience, healing, power, and potential, and for being my co pilot in this. And you could give a little thanks if you feel it too there
Absolutely.
for her joining the party. Glory be to God. And then if you want to close out in whatever way is your way, acknowledging your parts who spoke up and reminding them of their value.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
Thank you, Chris.
My pleasure. That was a nice little on the fly, figure this out as we go, moment to moment.
I tell you, every time, like I'm in a consultation group, and some people are like, "Do you want to talk shop?" And whenever it's like, "Who wants to do some work?" And then it's always just like,
Yeah,
this is way more valuable in my experience. Like this is always, doesn't matter who's doing the work, just that parts are being brought home is like, it's so immensely valuable. So, and I'm again, as an audience member, I always enjoy consuming these demos on other shows and podcasts.
Yeah, me too.
I'm glad we were able to offer it to this audience.
Absolutely. Thank you for entrusting me to co-lead you in it and bring Mary in. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Boy, that went fast.
I know. Well, time does fly, and again, I don't always go back and listen to episodes, but when I know I'm going to have have you on another time, I'm going to be making notes, and I'll have a little bit more of a structured bullet point on following through those many doors that we walked past together in today's conversation.
Right.
Because it's almost 3, I just want to ask you, for folks who are interested, where can they find you? You have a newsletter, social media stuff. How can people find out about you, Chris?
Yeah, basically website and Instagram. That's my only social media. So website is just therapyoutsidethebox.com. And IG is at Therapy Outside the Box.
Easy.
That's it.
Very
easy
brilliant.
peasy. I'll just say real quick, when it was my wife who thought of that name, right? I was part of my rebrand, as they say, a couple years back.
Yeah.
Threw out all the old and reinvented. And as soon as she said it, we both loved it. And then we both thought, there's no way that's not taken. So we go to search the URLs, not taken.
Not taken.
Grabbed it. And I've had 2 people since then try to get it and contacted me to basically say, "Oh, you bastard, you beat me to Therapy Outside the Box."
Like, sorry, you'll have to do therapyoutsidethebox.us, sucker.
Right.
Yeah, or .net. Yeah.
Right.
A pleasure, Chris. Such a pleasure being with you.
Indeed, man. And thank you.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.